My name is Jenna Lee, and I froze mid-step as I spotted my husband's ex-girlfriend, Jennifer, casually seated at our backyard table. Apparently, my mother-in-law, Camilla, decided our son's 10th birthday party was the perfect opportunity to stage an impromptu reunion. The thought of consulting me, his actual mother, must not have crossed her mind. Jennifer looked exactly as she did in the countless photos Camilla kept prominently displayed in her home. Photos she conveniently forgot to remove even after Andy and I married 7 years ago. The same perfect blonde hair, that rehearsed smile, and a designer dress so polished it probably cost more than the entire party budget. Isn't this wonderful? Camilla's voice chirped behind me, her hand clamping onto my shoulder like a vice. Jennifer was in town, and I thought Thomas would just love to meet her. After all, she was such an important part of Andy's life during college. I glanced over and saw my son, Thomas, showing Jennifer his new science kit. His face glowed with excitement while Andy stood a few steps away, looking like a schoolboy caught sneaking out of class. That guilty expression of his, it was the same one he wore every time Camilla bulldozed over my feelings. "Camilla," I said through clenched teeth, "could we speak inside for a moment?" In the kitchen, I folded my arms tightly, trying to rein in my frustration. Why would you invite Andy's ex to our son's birthday party without discussing it with us first? Camilla waved a manicured hand dismissively. Oh, Jenna, don't be so sensitive. Jennifer's family has known Andy since childhood. Her father and my late husband were business partners. She's practically family, and I'm not. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Camilla tilted her head, her pearls glinting under the light as she sniffed. Jennifer just understands us, our traditions, our world. She grew up in it. You're different, dear. Different. The polite way to say, I wasn't good enough. The woman from a modest background who, in Camilla's eyes, had derailed her son's perfect future. Through the window, I saw Jennifer laugh at something Andy said, her hand brushing his arm with a casual familiarity. Meanwhile, Thomas eagerly showed her his birthday presents, and she nodded with exaggerated interest, playing the role of the doting, almost stepmother. Besides, Camilla continued, Thomas should know about his father's past. Jennifer was going to be his mother, after all, before you came along. The room spun slightly. What do you mean, was going to be his mother? Camilla's eyes widened in mock surprise. Oh, dear, didn't Andy tell you? He and Jennifer were briefly engaged before you. They had it all planned. The house, the future, even their children's names. Why, Thomas was Jennifer's choice. She's always adored that name. Thomas. The name Andy and I had supposedly chosen together. The name that honored my late father, who never got to meet his grandson. Jenna. Andy's voice carried from the yard. Thomas wants to cut the cake. Forcing a smile, I returned to the party with a Superman cake I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. decorating. Guests gathered around the table as I set it down, but before I could light the candles, Jennifer's voice cut through the chatter. Oh, Thomas, she cooed. Did you know your dad used to make the most amazing superhero cakes? My mom's pastry chef taught him during one of our family vacations. I almost dropped the knife. Andy had told me he'd never baked before we met. Mom. Thomas tugged at my sleeve, his wide eyes full of hope. Can Jennifer come to my next birthday too? She promised to tell me more stories about when Dad was younger. Camilla beamed across the table, the picture of triumph. What a splendid idea. Families should stick together, don't you think, Jenna? I stood there, cake knife in hand, as cracks began to form in the carefully built world I thought was mine. This wasn't just about a surprise guest anymore. This was about my place in my own family story, and apparently, I'd been cast in a much smaller role than I'd imagined. My throat tightened. What did they say? Nilofer hesitated, glancing at the floor. Camilla was showing old photos, saying Jennifer comes from this prestigious family and how she and Andy were meant to be together until you came between them. I clenched the edge of my desk. Anything else? She sighed. She mentioned custody arrangements, something about how, since Jennifer picked Thomas's name and has a deep history with Andy, she might have a case for visitation rights. Custody arrangements? The room tilted, and I gripped my desk harder. That evening, I confronted Andy in the kitchen. He was cooking, something he'd started doing ever since Jennifer casually mentioned her culinary skills at the party. "Did you know your mother's spreading rumors about custody rights?" I asked, my voice strained. Andy froze, the spoon clattering against the pan. "She's what?" Apparently, she and Jennifer told parents at soccer practice about legal arrangements. "Care to explain?" He ran a hand through his hair, a dead giveaway of his nerves. "Look, Mom's just having a hard time letting go. Jennifer was around for a long time and what about the engagement?" I cut him off. "Were you ever going to tell me about that?" The silence was deafening. "It wasn't serious," he mumbled at last. "We were young." "Not serious? You planned our son's name with her." "That's not fair," he said quickly. "Yes, Jennifer liked the name Thomas, but I chose it with you because of your dad. It wasn't about her." "Then why is she suddenly everywhere? Soccer practice, school events." "Camilla's practically running a PR campaign for your ex-girlfriend." Andy set down the spatula, his face pale. "Maybe we should invite them both over for dinner. Clear the air." I stared at him in disbelief. "Dinner? Your mother invited your ex to our son's birthday without telling me, is spreading rumors about custody rights, and your solution is dinner?" "They're not rumors if there's some truth to them," came a voice from the doorway. We both turned to see Camilla standing there, house key in hand, the emergency key we'd given her for actual emergencies. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. Camilla strode in, placing a manila envelope on the counter. "Jennifer's family lawyer drew these up. Given her history with Andy and her connection to Thomas's name, he thinks she might have a case for visitation rights." Andy looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "Mom, that's insane. Jennifer has no legal rights to Thomas." Camilla's smile was razor-sharp. "Not yet, but considering your hasty marriage to Jenna and Jennifer's long-standing place in the family, the courts might see it differently." "Get out," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Camilla blinked. "Excuse me? Take your papers and get out of my house." Her face hardened. "Jenna, don't be difficult. We're just trying to do what's best for Thomas. A child needs the right influences, people who understand family legacy." I grabbed the envelope, tore it in half, and shoved it into her hands. "My son has all the influence he needs. Leave or I'll call the police." Camilla's parting words stung as she walked out the door. "This isn't over, dear. Jennifer's family has excellent lawyers." I turned to Andy, who was still frozen in place. "You need to decide right now if you're going to let your mother destroy our family for some fantasy about Jennifer, because I won't stand for it." The smoke alarm blared, the smell of burning food filling the kitchen. Dinner was ruined, and it felt like my marriage might be going up in flames right along with it. "But Thomas's science project," Jennifer began. "One about 4 hours ago," I cut in, "with the volcano we made together. Turns out the judges prefer projects actually made by students over ones manufactured by overstepping adults." Silence. "And Camilla," I added, "the school is investigating how an unauthorized adult removed my son from campus. Imagine how your country club friends will react when you're banned from school grounds." "You wouldn't dare," Camilla hissed. "Try me," I said, my voice firm. "I've spent weeks being polite, being understanding. Those days are over." Later that evening, as Andy and I watched Thomas play in the backyard, my phone buzzed with a text from Camilla. "I suppose I owe you an apology."
"No," I replied.
"You owe Thomas an apology for dragging him into adult drama, confusing him about his family, and putting your own wants above his needs." Her response came quickly. "You're right.
"I'm sorry."
It wasn't perfect, but it was a start." 2 weeks later, we celebrated Thomas's science fair win with a small family dinner. No surprise guests, no hidden agendas, just us. "Mom," Thomas asked as I served dessert, "can you teach me how to make a chocolate volcano cake next time?" I caught Andy's smile across the table. A real one, not the strained, nervous ones he'd been wearing lately. "Of course, sweetie," I said. "Some traditions are worth keeping in the family." As I looked around the table, I realized something important. Sometimes protecting your family means being willing to fight for it, even if that means standing up to the people who think they're fighting for it, too.